what's up, guys? Welcome back to the David and Aidan show. My name is David.
My name is Aidan.
And welcome to this Marvel-filled episode. We're going to talk about all things Marvel, MCU, our first encounter with the MCU/Marvel Universe, our favorite characters. All things Marvel will be discussed in this episode. It's going to be very exciting.
It truly is, dare I say, marvelous. I know we didn't want this intro to be cheesy, but I couldn't resist. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. Really digging this one-topic episode format, and we're back at it with, season 2 of the podcast. So thank you to everyone who's joined us here on this fine evening/morning/afternoon, depending on when you're listening to the podcast.
Yes, so let's just get right into it. So we have a couple bullet points that we're just going to kind of go over. We're going to answer some questions, all that stuff. So first question and topic we're going to be tackling is what got us into the MCU, and MCU specifically.
All right, well, I'll take that one first. What got me into the MCU? Let's see. So specifically into the MCU, when I was little, I would watch this animated series about Iron Man, very old, very bad animated series, and that kind of spurred me when I got a little bit older to, get into the whole MCU movies and stuff. The first movie, this is actually a question later on the list, but I watched Iron Man, and that kind of spurred my interest into, like the MCU and stuff. And then I kind of, like, for the longest time, I wasn't really like a huge fan of the MCU. It was just, they were just superhero movies for me. They're just like movies that I would watch if I had the opportunity to. But the thing that really got my interest and kind of pushed me full on into the Marvel nerd I am today, was most definitely Infinity War and Endgame. That whole kind of hype that went into those two movies, I think really got me into that kind of subculture of people. So that's kind of my story with that. Yeah, what about you?
Okay, so this is not the first one I saw. I'll answer that in a later question. But what got me into it was Civil War. Just kind of understanding, like, this is so much bigger. Like, there's some really cool stuff in here. That's what really got me into it. That's the first one I saw in theaters. And then rewatching Civil War, I'm like, okay, so that was cool, but I didn't understand a lot of what happened. So I kind of went back and rewatched them, and then I pretty much kept up with it since 2016. So that's what got me into the MCU.
Nice. So for this middle section of our podcast today, we are going to rank our top 5 Marvel movies, counting down from 5, and going to, of course, number 1. Later on in today's episode, we are going to talk about some other Marvel-related conversation questions. But for now, we are going to rank our top 5 Marvel films, and it's going to be a fun journey. So kicking things off with number 5 for me would be the Guardians of the Galaxy films. Both of them are very good movies in my opinion, and I'm kind of lumping them into one bullet point on my list here, just because there's too many good Marvel movies. But no, they're a lot of fun. They're very funny. They played a lot into Endgame and stuff. It was cool to see some of those characters bleed over into some other more Avengers movies and stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. A very good watch. I've seen them multiple times, and very much so enjoy the films. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy, they've also just played a lot into pop culture and stuff, references with Groot and everything. So it's just kind of one of those things. They're I don't know, they seem like kind of movies on their own, like too, like they play into the MCU, but they also are very standalone, and they can kind of just, they're very good. So that's my professional review on that. What do you have for number 5, David?
Number 5, I have one of the most epic Spider-Man movies ever, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, true love letter to just the character of Spider-Man. I don't know all the references. I'm not a comic book reader, so if you're a comic book reader, this must be heaven for you. But for me, as just a Spider-Man fan, this was still epic. I loved it. There's just so cool. I love that, like, Miles Morales is the main character. That's cool. Like, that's a pretty, like, gutsy move. Like, they want to make money, but they still went with, a different Spider-Man. That's awesome. So there's just so much to love in this movie. It's so fun. I watched it so many times. It's just amazing. I mean, I really can't review more than that. It's just an amazing movie.
Awesome. Very cool. Coming in at number 4 for me is Civil War, which is it's a very good movie. This is you were talking about this being kind of one of your turning points for the MCU.
Yes.
Back when that movie came out, again, I wasn't like really diehard MCU fan. I was like into it, but I also like was very confused whenever I watched a Marvel movie.
Same.
But it was a good movie. I remember watching it shortly after it came out, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun movie. It's kind of added, like you mentioned, it adds a lot of depth to the storytelling, and it raised so many questions about pretty much everything in the MCU for me. But I did enjoy it, and it does make a spot on this list. So yeah.
And number 4 for me is also Civil War. Same things. What
Awesome.
you said, it's epic, it's amazing. The fight is incredible. Love seeing Spider-Man in there for the first time. And I
Yes.
also love, like, treating superheroes, with some, like, reality behind them. Like, if superheroes were a thing, how would the government and people respond to that? And this is not a DC episode, but that's one reason I do love Batman vs. Superman, as well as
Yeah.
this one. Like, whenever there's two sides to the same thing, and both sides just want to do good, just in different ways, I think that's awesome. It's an awesome superhero movie with great action. It also has, like, that political thriller vibe, which I really love. So,
Oh yeah.
this is an epic movie.
I would agree that Civil War is a very good movie, like you just said, and I do think that when you are in superhero movies, when they kind of bridge into more reality and talk about real world issues instead of feeling very fictional with superheroes, that's when they feel more real, and that's the kind of movies that in my opinion, succeed more because they're taking something that otherwise wouldn't be too believable with superpowers, and they're combining it with something that we see on a daily basis, real world kind of issues and topics. And I think that's a very strong point in the storytelling of a superhero film. So I would agree with everything mentioned there, David.
Very cool. I
Awesome.
think we have the same number 3. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Infinity War.
Yes, we do, yeah.
Yes, it's a great movie. I don't know. I'm probably gonna rewatch it tonight now that I'm thinking about this. Got to take advantage of the Disney Plus. But no, it's a fun movie. I enjoy it. It's really cool to see Thanos in the movie. It's really cool. It's a good kind of adventure, fun movie. The ending was spectacular in my opinion.
Yes.
I feel like it just raised so many questions. This was one of the pivotal points that kind of got me fully fledged into the MCU. I feel like just seeing that, waiting for Endgame to happen, in the time between Infinity War and Endgame, I went from baseline nerd to very, very high amounts of nerd, and it was a lot of fun. So really thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
Awesome. Yeah, no, to echo the same things you said, it's amazing, it's awesome. I love that this is the villain's story. I love that the villain wins.
Yes.
It's like the final 40 seconds are some of my favorite in any movie ever made. Just like I once again not a comic reader, but the fact that they just took it there, so comic accurate and just so gutsy, like they went there. They actually did that. That's awesome.
It's a great movie because like it's not like the superheroes, it's not a happily ever after ending. You don't have this ending that concludes everything. You're left with questions. You're left with the bad guy winning, and it's very interesting. You don't see a lot of movies like this. A lot of movies conclude in the end, and it's that full circle of a plot, and the hero's journey concludes, and they're fine afterwards. And it's kind of a refreshing change to a typical movie of that kind. So I really, really do enjoy the movie.
Exactly. It's like when you can get like the villain's story right and you can have the bad guys win. When you get that story right, it's incredible. Empire Strikes Back does this. Infinity Wars does it.
Yes.
It's a great, if you can get it right, it's amazing, and this movie does.
100%. And that was your number 3 as well, correct?
Yes, it was.
Awesome. So number 2 for me would be Endgame. Again, very good movie. It's kind of tied for Infinity War for me, but I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed Endgame just slightly more was just because after Infinity War, I started getting so much more hyped about the MCU. So I think I just went into watching Endgame completely differently. And it was such a good movie. It was a movie, I've said this so many times before, it was made for the fans. It was long. It was a beautiful, beautiful cinematic accomplishment. So, like, no complaints. It was amazing.
It really was, yes.
Yes.
My number 2 is Spider-Man 2. I love that this is my favorite Spider-Man movie. I think Sam Raimi just knew the character of Peter Parker. He understood what he had to do, and Peter Parker is I guess he's supposed to be a boy here, even though he looks like a man. you have to beat down on that character. You have to like test him with everything, not by goons and criminals, but in his personal life, because his personal life is attached to him being Spider-Man, and he
Right.
perfectly understood that. It's an amazing movie. I've said this on the podcast before, and it's thrown around all around the internet. It's not only a great superhero movie, it's a great film, and it really is. It's a great character
Right.
study. I love this movie. It's amazing.
Awesome. I would second everything you've said about that. Very, very, very cool. Cool. Coming in at number one, a little bit of a drum roll here, is Spider-Man Homecoming.
Very
If you know
nice.
me, you know that I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a great character, especially after he was brought into the MCU. It's just, I don't know. I think they did a really good job with his character. I think the movies are fun, but they also kind of touch on various like deeper topics in their very good movies. Homecoming was a great movie in my opinion. It was spot on. It did not come close too far from home. But yeah, Homecoming was great, and also kind of tied at number one. We were talking about this before the podcast, and I feel like I should throw it in here. Is Into the Spider-Verse, because
Yes.
it was also very good. And yeah, kind of tied. It's just like the whole Spider-Man kind of in the MCU, that whole kind of niche in itself is at number one for me. It's not necessarily one film, it's the whole experience of having him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So,
Absolutely, yeah, both are incredible. My number one is this is not the best. It's just my personal favorite is Endgame. I think all the other
awesome.
ones on this list might be a little better than Endgame, but still, I love this movie. It's 3 hours long, but it literally feels like 40 minutes to me. It's just incredible. Like you said, it's made for the fans. Like I will never ever forget this theater experience. Best theater experience of my life. I
Oh
was
yeah.
blessed to have the best crowd possible. Like anything remotely cool would happen, it was burst of applause. Cap having Thor's hammer, that was incredible.
Yes.
Iron Man's death was epic and sad, and
Yeah.
it's such a good movie. I love it. It's my second favorite movie of all time. There's just so much to love, and I love it all. So yeah.
Yes. Subtle plug, go check out the Marvel review we made about a year ago.
Yes.
It's out on the Aidan Films YouTube channel. Link in the show notes if I remember. I plugged this review every episode, but it, like, in all honesty, it was a really, really fun collab, and
It
we
was
talked
so
a lot
good.
about the movies, so it was a lot of fun to make. And also, it's fun to plug your old content because then you don't have to worry too much about making new videos. All right, so that was our top five Marvel movies ranked. Moving into the third and final segment of today's episode of the David and Aidan Show, we are going to just do some quick fire Marvel-related questions to kind of raise some conversation topics about the universe in general. So, starting off with question number one, it is, what movie would you like to see in the MCU, sequel or otherwise? Over to you, David, for the response on that one.
So I know it's coming, but I can't wait to see it because I don't know much about it, but I'm excited to learn, especially in MCU form. That is X-Men. I can't wait to see the X-Men
Yes.
in this
Yes.
universe. I want to see, what they do, how they kind of keep the continuity, if they keep it at all. I'm scared if they bring Deadpool in because that kind of admits that this is all like a movie, and I don't want that. I want this to remain this, semi-serious thing, even though it is superhero. I really hope they don't bring Deadpool in. I hope he's his own thing. But regardless,
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see what Disney does with X-Men.
It's gonna be super exciting. X-Men is like, I started off with the X-Men when I was younger. I would watch the old, I just Googled this today to see when it came out. The old X-Men animated TV show it came out in the 90s, and I am by no means a 90s kid, but I really enjoyed that. I think it was on Netflix for a long time, and it was so much fun to watch. It was like my number one thing.
Nice.
But yeah, X-Men is awesome. It's great characters. It's great topics too. It's like a good all around kind of universe in itself, and I'm interested, like you said, to see what Disney does with it. My answer for that question, it's again a movie that's coming out in 22. It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Just excited for it. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So I pretty sure it looks like I just Googled it. Yeah, it's set for 2022. Yeah, cool. Or here it says 2021, so I'm not
Oh,
sure. It's gonna
seriously?
come out soon. Yeah,
2020?
I see IMDb says 2021. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but either way, it's gonna come out eventually, and it'll be a fun movie. Those the Guardians of the Galaxies are just always great. So
Yes,
I'm
just like
excited
that
to see.
last. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, good.
And just like that last that minute interaction between Thor and Star-Lord,
Yes.
like if that's the tone for Volume 3, then it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited just to see what Marvel has in store, post Endgame and everything. It's going to be some pretty cool, interesting movies, and it's just going to be exciting to see where the franchise and where all the movies go. It's going to be a very fun time. So pretty much any movie to come will be a great movie.
Absolutely.
Um, Question number two is, what is your favorite Marvel character in the MCU? Everyone knows mine, but I'll just say it again. It's Spider-Man. That there's nothing more to be said. It's just a good character.
Very cool. Yeah, it's
What?
Spider-Man's my favorite too, tied with not tied, I would say in second place would be Captain America. But Spider-Man,
Cool.
so relatable. He has so many good, pieces of content. I am currently just loving Spider-Man PS4. That's such a great game.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. So just Spider-Man is just a great character. There's so many mediums that you can just appreciate. So yeah, definitely Spider-Man.
Totally. Awesome. Next question is, what is our first Marvel related encounter? So slightly different from the MCU question. What really got us into Marvel, into the just Marvel in general? And that would, for me, it would be tied between when I was little, I would watch, these animated series, and I would watch this animated Iron Man TV show and then this animated X-Men show, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago. And they were both like, made for kids, kind of cheesy and not the best, but they were pretty cool, and it kind of got me interested in the characters. And I think that was my very first encounter, and I kind of snowballed from there, and here we are.
Very cool. So I have a weird encounter. I think it was my 7th birthday party. I had a Captain America theme. I never saw the movie, but that just kind of was the thing. I had the toys. I had the toys. I had birthday parties related to MCU, but I never saw them because I was little. But just I had the action figures and that kind of. I knew the characters' names, and then I watched some cartoons. I think the Spider-Man ones on Disney XD. I kind of watched
Nice.
that, but it was mainly just commercials and the Target toy section that got me into Marvel. And then when I was old enough, and my parents would take me to go see MCU movies in theaters, Civil War was my first one.
Awesome.
Actually,
Very
I think
cool.
I saw. No, I think I actually saw Age of Ultron, but I had no clue what was happening. So that doesn't really
Yeah.
count. But Civil War
No,
was
when
one
I
I
was
was hyped
little and
about.
watched any Marvel movies, I was completely and utterly confused. But I'm
Yes.
glad I stuck with it because it's made for some very fun times. So,
Yes, absolutely.
yes.
Now going into question 4 in our little Marvel Q&A rapid fire round is, what is our biggest complaint with the MCU? Because while these movies are fun and entertaining, they are far from perfect. So what is your biggest complaint, Aiden?
So, pulling something off the top of my head here, I would definitely have to say the comedy of the movies. You know, I don't know. I don't have a lot of complaints about the movies, but we were just discussing this off the record, and comedy does come to mind because you reminded me of that, and then I stole your idea. But also, just because it's something that bugs me in a lot of movies. It's something that bugs me in some of the newer Star Wars movies,
Yeah.
that when they add comedy to films that really I feel like could be more gritty, and I think it's something that they do to make it feel more superhero and yay, fun, lighthearted, but also at the end of the day, a lot of these superhero movies have such potential to be more gritty and more real and bring about real things. We talked about this regarding Civil War, and I don't know, I think that sometimes the comedy can kind of be detrimental to a film's success. But all in all, literally not that many complaints about Marvel. I mean, I could go on and on about various complaints about DC, but Marvel is pretty good. So, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, same thing, comedy. It's just comedy is of course fine, and if it wasn't, I don't want no jokes, but just, but this is the biggest one that comes to mind. Doctor Strange, he dons the cape, it comes up because it's kind of alive, and this is his moment. This is what we've been building to for the past hour, 30 minutes. He's about to go take on the big bad, and then the cape tickles his cheek. We didn't need that. Stuff like that when comedy purposefully cuts tension. No, I don't like that. I didn't like that in The Last Jedi, and I love The Last Jedi, but just stuff like that doesn't work. And also, I have a couple more complaints, unfortunately. The villains, except for Thanos and Loki and I don't know, Vulture was cool. Vulture was cool. And Mysterio. Those are top tier. Besides that are forgettable. I couldn't mention the names probably. They're not scary. I know the good guy is going to win, and it's I just don't care about them. The perfect example was the terrible one from Thor: The Dark World. God, he was an embarrassment. And then my final one, this I hope I'm proved wrong. Black Widow, I couldn't care less for that so far. I'm excited to get a trailer for Internals. I want to see Marvel take risks because they had a very consistent 23 film arc, and they had like 3 missteps. That was great. But now, you had your victory. Now I want to see them take a little risk and do stuff different. I'm excited for Multiverse of Madness because that's supposed to be a horror movie. And according to Letterboxd, like this is now I'm going a little off topic. Apparently they're getting Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to like make little Spider-Man
Really?
cameos. Yes.
Nice. That's cool.
Yes,
I hear that. That's
I want to
awesome.
see cool stuff. So yeah, Black Widow, not loving. I'm gonna still see it, of course, but that's just kind of those are my complaints/concerns. So now switching over to more positive topics about the MCU, let's talk about our favorite Marvel moments. Now this can be from any movie, anything related to Marvel. What's your favorite moment?
All right. Well, my favorite moment, a little bit of a downer, but I thoroughly enjoy the ending of Infinity War.
Yes,
It's
yes.
very depressing, but it was just so exciting. It was so exciting to see it, and I don't know. It just got me very excited about the universe, and of course, you know that the people aren't all gonna die. That part was kind of obvious, but like it was fun. It was very exciting. The ending of Infinity War and the very beginning of Endgame. I think the very beginning of Endgame, I was just so excited to get into
Yeah.
that movie and just watch it, and like it's very exciting. I'm very excited about that. Even now, like I kind of want to watch Endgame now. But no, yeah, that has to be one of my favorite moments. What about you?
Oh yeah, the last 40 seconds of Infinity War are magic. I think from the moment Captain America says "Oh God" to the credits rolling, movie magic. Thor, not Thor, Captain America wielding Thor's hammer, amazing. The train sequence in Spider-Man 2, that's up there. The whole airport showdown in Civil War, that's amazing. There's so many good moments, but I think the top 3 are last 50 seconds of Infinity War, the third act of Endgame, which has a long moment, but still, and then the train
Yeah.
sequence in Spider-Man 2.
Nice, cool. All right, moving on to the very final segment of today's podcast. Let's take a look into the future of the MCU, more specifically Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And me and David are just going to have a kind of a conversation about, our thoughts of the universe going forward and all of that jazz. So take it away, David.
So by far the one I'm most excited for is probably Spider-Man 3. I just want to see what's going on there. His identity is now known. That's pretty crazy.
Oh
And,
yeah, that's
that-
going to be exciting.
There's just so much to do there. I hope they introduce something cool. I hope it's just not like, oh, everybody accepts him now because he's Spider-Man. I hope we see the mess that causes on
it
his
could go
life.
either way. Yeah, I am very, very excited for all that Spider-Man has to hold in the future. We'll see. I know, like I just saw something pop up in the news about Disney and Sony again, kind of having some conflicts. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll keep our fingers crossed with that because as long as Spider-Man can stay in the MCU, he'll be like one of my very favorite characters. It's just
Exactly.
such a good addition to
But
the.
I hope now that they know like this whole like beef that they had, I hope they end it in a way that if they do lose the rights, Sony can pick it up and continue that story.
Hopefully, yeah.
So what's the big thing you're looking for?
I think there's a lot of potential going into Disney Plus exclusive stuff, both TV shows and films. I think that, it's going to be a pretty interesting phase. I think Disney is kind of figuring everything out with, now having Marvel and Star Wars and everything. And I think it's going to for some pretty great content going forward. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Another one I'm really looking forward to is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness because
Oh, definitely.
that looks just all kinds of crazy. And we don't even have anything. We always just have as a logo. But the fact that
Yeah.
it's going to be horror, that's awesome.
That's going to be interesting for a Marvel movie. That's going to be pretty cool.
Yes, I heard it's not going to be like scary, but it's going to have like some scary moments. But still, regardless, just multiverse, like that's crazy right there.
Very
Because
exciting, yes.
I was kind of disappointed when what's it called? Far From Home just kind of like, no, it's not a multiverse. He's just has really cool technology. Let's see, WandaVision. It looks all kinds of weird. It's supposed to be like a sitcom. Like, did you see that Super Bowl promo?
I didn't. I see the logo. I have not looked at that one at all. What is it?
Yeah, okay, so they showed a bunch of them, and we'll talk about this in a second. But for WandaVision, it's like she's like I don't know. I think maybe she went into her own little realm and brought Vision back to life, and they're living in
Whoa.
some sitcom. I don't know. They had it looking like the Dick Van Dyke Show. It's all kinds of
Wait,
weird.
that looks awesome.
Yeah, it's all
That
kinds of
is
weird. Yeah,
whoa.
yeah,
Okay, I think, Phase 4 is just going to be a very fun time. I think there's just a
absolutely.
lot, and it's super exciting, super
Yes,
exciting. And a lot of the stuff, like, we have a little bit of time to wait for, but it's coming around faster than you'd think.
absolutely.
So,
And then Falcon and the Winter
sweet.
Soldier, that looks cool. According to some
Oh,
like
yeah.
leak pictures, is that they wanted Falcon to take the serum, but he wouldn't, so they gave it to this other dude. And then he's like, "Uh-oh, he's a bad guy." So that looks interesting.
Nice, cool, very cool.
So yeah, there's just
So
lots to
yeah,
look forward to. I'm excited for all of it. I'm mainly excited for the stuff that I just don't know about, like Shang-Chi, Internals, what is this? Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, like all that stuff. That's what I'm excited for. I just want to learn more.
nice.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff like being brought into the MCU, a lot of stuff returning. It's going to be a very exciting phase. I'm excited to see what the coming years bring, and that kind of wraps this Marvel exclusive episode. I hope it was as marvelous as we have intended, and thank you all for tuning in this far. If you have, that's very awesome.
Yes,
So
you are awesome.
thank you for that. You can find the podcast on Instagram at the David and Aidan Show. You can find me on Instagram at _it's_Aidan. You can find me on Twitter at Aidan_films, on Letterboxd at Aidan_films, and of course on YouTube at Aidan Films. What are your handles, David?
YouTube is basically Star Wars. Twitter is at David Lawler YT. I'm very active on there, and I'm also active on Letterboxd, which is this is weird, all capital LAW3ER.
Cool. Awesome. A little update on my handle situation. I've I've reached out to many people to see if I could get Aidan Films on Instagram. It doesn't seem to be working, but I might update it to Aidan_films because
cool.
that is available, and that's my Twitter handle too. So I think it's better than _it's_Aidan. So that might be happening tonight. So, but yeah, I just do some searching, and you'll probably find my Instagram eventually. To all of your listeners out there. And other than that, that about wraps up today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Leave us a comment, a like, rating, anywhere you get your podcasts. And don't forget to tune in next week for the next episode of the David and Aidan Show. And until then, we need an outro.